All right, so this week in Pax Day, the developers announced a AMA for the upcoming Master Crafting update or crafting in general. This update, like we covered last week, is going to be a little bit of a smaller update pending the larger verse 6 coming down the line, but it's introducing things like Master Crafting, and that's what the developers talked about as of today. So we are going to be going over that AMA and a little bit more. So hello and welcome back, all of you amazingly professional consumers of Pax Day and Pax Day related content out there. I'm Altari, the professional gamer, and this is another episode of the Pax Friday Review, the show where we talk about the fun, interesting, new, and exciting information that has come out over the last week. Like I said, we got a AMA update. This is a two-parter. This specific update is going to be talking about the upcoming Master Crafting changes that are coming to the game. We've got a bunch of answers here talking about it, so we're going to go ahead and go on over to playpaxday.com to check that out. But before we do, I just want to say a special thank you to all of our channel members. Without your financial support, we wouldn't be able to do all of the crazy fun stuff that we do on the channel. And also, if you haven't done so already, please don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe in case you want to get notified about any new updates coming to Pax Day or Pax Day related content, and share this with any of your friends who are looking to stay up to date with Pax Day. Like I said, we're going to go over to playpaxday.com to go and check out the upcoming Master Crafting AMA from the Discord. I will see you all over there. All right, so here we are on playpaxday.com. And like I mentioned during the intro, upcoming Master Crafting AMA from the Discord. For anyone who's wondering, Master Crafting, basically what it is when you craft something, if you have a 95% is what they say, 95% success or higher, then you are going to get a master crafted item. That master crafted item is effectively going to have a plus 50 item power to it. So it's not a super big boost, but it is a boost that's going to make your weapon basically half a tier better than what it is currently, which is a pretty cool deal. So we're just going to go through all of these Q&A questions here from what was asked by you, the community, earlier in the week. And this one is being split into two different sections. And I would imagine that after this second AMA, or the second part of this AMA, we will have it dropping into Arcadia, the test server. So we'll be able to actually get our hands on some of these particular updates as well. But starting at the very top, what exactly qualifies as a master crafted item? What is the required skill level? Must the recipe be trivial or mastered first? So again, like I mentioned, we only need to get a 95% success rate or higher in order to get a master crafted item. In theory, as long as you can craft the item, even if it was very hard, you have a very, very small chance of getting a 95% success roll on that craft. But it's very, very unlikely that you will. So they said for a recipe that's considered mastered, you have a 45% chance of making a master crafted item based on the RNG roll. For more difficult items, the chance gets slimmer and slimmer, but there's always a sliver of a chance to get even for the very hard crafts. So again, you don't need to be at the master proficiency or trivial proficiency for it. But if you are, then you're better off for it as well. You have almost a 50% chance of hitting it once you're mastered. So that's a pretty cool deal. Is master crafting a fixed bonus or is it a variable? Currently, it is going to be a fixed bonus. You get a plus 50 to your item power, and they do have the idea for expanding the effective master crafting in future releases. However, for this one, it's just going to be a simple, straightforward addition. And then they said, is master crafting a one-off system or something that will expand over time? So they do have plans to expand it later, but this update is just specifically going to be affecting item power. If anyone's wondering what those additional changes might be or updates in the future might be, way back a year plus ago, before even the newest combat system update came out, there were actually effects that were on weapons previously. Like every so many hits, you would create a stackable dot on an enemy, or you'd have a proc effect that goes out. I do think that that's something that might be in the design for later in the game. They took it away because they needed to rebalance everything, and the new combat system had its own effects and all of that to it. But when they talk about what other things might be coming, I think it might, at even one point in time when we were talking to the devs, they even went so far as to mention that when you craft things, Mastercrafting might add an additional proc effect or an additional something to your weapon that gives you maybe an additional spell or effect of some sort, or a new type of spell. So when they talk about expanding on this later, I believe that might be what they're alluding to here. Now, obviously, everything that I just said is stuff that they mentioned in the past, but just because they mentioned it in the past doesn't mean it's coming in the future. It just means that something like it might be planned in the future. And when we talk about future here, it might be something very far off. It might be something in the next 6 months. We don't exactly know it. But I do think that even just this small item power change, plus 50 is actually no laughing matter. What some of the perfectionists in us would prefer probably is having the ability to enchant something not 100 plus 125, but plus 150. So then you could get the enchantment at plus 150 plus a mastercrafted item, which combined together would give you a whole additional tier level higher than what you'd normally be able to get, as opposed to right now where you just get plus 125, which is basically 1 tier and a quarter higher. With a mastercrafted and plus 150, you'd be able to get to a whole 2 item powers higher off of just a generic roll. And if you're talking about blue, well, then you get, plus 200 to that. So really big effects when we start talking additional tiers going up. You see a lot of changes with that. So even a half a tier is going to make a pretty big difference, in my opinion. Now, for mastercrafted items and stats and effects, does mastercrafting increase durability and lifetime or tool effectiveness? Tool effectiveness is based on item power. So yes, your tool effectiveness will be affected, but durability and lifetime are technically not affected by item power. So you would not see this change in this current release, but in the future, you might be able to see that. And again, I do think that this might be tied back to certain effects that can be on weapons. For example, when we're talking about durability and lifetime, if you get a mastercrafted item and then it has some kind of effect on it, that effect could be like unbreakable. And if it's unbreakable, then it increases the lifetime durability by 100% or something like that. That would be a type of proc effect. And I again, that's why I think that this would be what they're talking about for future releases. Then it was asked, will higher level master crafters produce stronger mastercrafted items? No, but higher skill level will expand the range of items you can master craft. So again, going back to what we mentioned earlier, when you have a particular skill at the master level for that particular craft, it will increase your ability to get a mastercrafted item, but it's not going to increase the effect that's applied when you have that mastercrafted item. Then it was asked, will mastercrafted items ever have additional effects beyond item power, like fire speed, specialization, perks, and all of that? They say never, but not today. So again, this was more of a direct question related to what I've just been alluding to. They clearly are playing around with this idea because never say never is a very cutesy way of saying, yeah, this is kind of what we're thinking about, but it's not something that we're going to commit to. This is a very Mainframe way of saying, yes, this is exactly what we're planning, but we can't commit to it because we never commit until we know for a fact that it's coming into the game, which actually in some ways I really appreciate Mainframe. And then will mastercrafted jewelry receive a benefit as well? So jewel crafting, this is the one discipline that I am focused on leveling right now. I don't know why. It's just I've done all the other crafts at one point or another except jewel crafting. So I figured, what the heck? I'll level up jewel crafting. It is the most useless. The only reason that jewel crafting is useful at all is because you need to make chiseled cannonite in order to have higher crafted, enchanted items. But other than that, there is no reason to have high level in jewel crafting other than just a mad flex that you've crafted literally thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of jewelry just to get to level 40. But they even mention it here. Jewel crafting is a very underserved crafting skill right now, and they really want to integrate Mastercrafting to that profession as well. But this will happen in a future update. Guess what? It's probably going to happen in the exact same update where jewel crafting gets its crafting improvement as well. And I do think that this is going to be linked to specialization perks too. In the past, jewelry has had like different resistance effects and other things associated with it. That might be coming back. Maybe you're going to be able to get additional spells or something that affects your actual skill levels or something like that. Probably more static effects come on with that rather than active effects. But either way, jewel crafting will be getting an update in the future, and I desperately am looking forward to that. Now, in terms of customization and recommendation, will mastercrafted items have a distinct visual appearance? Currently, the in-world item is not affected by mastercrafting. That means currently. In the future, they might actually add some kind of change to it that gives it a distinctive property. Maybe it looks a lot shinier. Maybe it actually has like a glow to it or something magical in an aspect to it. Again, I feel like I'm just going to be a broken record and keep coming back to this. But for example, in the future, if you were able to have a mastercrafted item and that applies a perk to your weapon, for example, and it applies a fire perk to it, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Remember that long ago, the oldest followers of this channel, you'll remember my obsession with Lyonnesse's Radiant Sword. Technically like a holy weapon or an ancient weapon. The sacred flame of Lyonesse, as it would be. It was a sword wreathed in fire. Well, if you mastercraft a fire sword and you get the proc fire on it, then it would be safe to assume that that sword, when you pull it out, might have flames coming from it. One, that would be really cool. Mainframe, I'm still holding you to that radiant sword. But either way, I think that might be what they're talking about, especially when they say the words currently. But means also probably a far time off and when they get to it. Will the crafter's name be visible on the item, be visible on the market listing? Will they be able to be anonymous for it? Yes. The answer to this is it's going to show up on the stats panel when you craft it. So master crafting, item power bonus, the item power calculation, and the name of the crafter is under it. The crafter's name is not optional. If you have a master crafted weapon, you are going to be forced to present that to everyone in the world. And you can see that right here, where you have, for example, the Vanguard's Breaches of Holy Strike 2. It has a base power of 400. You get your additional skill power associated with it. And then you have your master crafting right here, and it says the master crafter's name. Here we have a pointy stick, but which is insane. This is a pointy stick, but it has the item power of something significantly better than that. It's a pointy stick. You can make this with wood. It is a wild thing to think of that you could boost a simple pointy stick to iron tier efficiency. That's 2 tiers above where it should be. And you can see it again with the iron skinning knife. And here, the effectiveness of the tool is directly being affected. So it's not going to affect the hardness. The item power doesn't affect hardness, but it does affect the damage. So it's going to make you able to harvest faster. It's not necessarily going to allow you to harvest a higher tier of something. At least that's not how it works right now. And yeah, that's pretty much all that they have for this particular update. We are going to get another one next week. I would expect if they split it into 2, that means either next week or the week after that, we're going to have access to it on Arcadia. I really hope that the larger verse 6 update is coming down the line too. There's a lot of hopes that I have for that patch. Nominally, I think it would be really great if they added more cosmetic stuff to the game or more diversity of the various weapons and armor skins that we have. Way back when the game was in early access, we had so much more access to all the various cosmetic items that we could apply, and they weren't cosmetics, they were actually pieces of armor, and the level of customization was just a lot more. For some reason this week, I've just been thinking a lot about the item customization that's in Pax Dei, the ability to do dyeing and changing the materials on there. And these are all things that we know that they can do, that they've had proof of concepts. In fact, they showed that during Unreal Fest last year, and we were hoping it would come to the game a lot sooner, but it seems like it's going to be further out. It's probably not even going to be verse 6. The other things that we even talked about on this channel with them in a developer interview was things like dueling, the ability to duel in home valleys. That is definitely something that would benefit the community, especially with PvP. And then obviously the big one, which is getting a delay, unfortunately, which is alliance permissions for PvP, but also more granular clan permissions. And honestly, clan permission benefits everyone. It's not just PvP, but literally everyone. And then other things that we've been looking for and waiting for, like the parish system or the religious system in Pax Dei, getting an expansion into that. They had some early concepts and they teased it a lot all the way back in the summer, but it seems like they pivoted and did a couple of other things as they came closer to release. So hopefully we get to start seeing some of those things come out in the next couple of months. But if we're going to learn about it, you're going to learn about it here first. So thanks again for watching today. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and do so you can get notified for all of the updates that we have on Pax Dei or Pax Dei related content, and share this video with any of your friends who are interested in learning more about Pax Dei. Until the next video, I'm Altari, the Professional Gamer.